need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, why are you only giving 50%? What's wrong with you? You need to put yourself on punishment. You need to tell you no more TV, no more snacks, no more dessert, we working out now. No more alcohol, not right now. I can't handle it right now. You need to tell you that you owe you something.
We are back with another episode of HBCU Central, partnered with Inside the Locker Room. And, today, if you do notice, we have a very, very special guest with us, our 2026 HBCU All-Star champ, and Mr. Larry Howell. How are you doing?
I'm doing good today. I can't complain. How y'all doing?
We're doing amazing. I said this before we even start the show. Shout out to all your accolades that you got this season. It's your senior year. You've got in many awards, throughout the postseason. Then to top it all off, you won the HBCU All-Star game. Then you won the MVP. So I just know everything is looking great right now. And look, Michael, I tell Michael this all the time. Thank you, for helping me, get all this set up, so we can continue to promote HBCUs and, help support our athletes and promote our athletes and our HBCUs. But Michael.
Absolutely. Dude, so first of all, let me tell you, bro, like I'm willing to do everything in my power to make sure the HBCUs are not forgotten by the outside world. And schools nowadays have tried to make us forget about HBCUs and what it means to be represented HBCU. What it means to attend an HBCU. And that's why, we do what we do. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm so passionate about it because, one of our guests asked us last episode, why are you so passionate about this? It's because I love HBCUs. I love the history of HBCUs and how it all started for not just our ancestors, but how it is right now for us. And HBCU history is among one of the top best histories that you can ever see. It's just a matter of which school you want to go to. And Mr. Howell, for example, FSU, that's a dominant HBCU. And, like Deuce just said, you have reached levels of being not just an MVP, but you reached that level of being a champion. And, that's a huge level to be at, especially as a senior. So, first of all, shout out to you. And also, shout out to FSU for rocking with your boy, Mr. Larry Howard here. But, Mr. Howard, to jump into this show, um, first and foremost, let me do this right quick because I need everyone to understand who is literally sitting in front of our screen right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Larry Howell is a standout senior guard / forward for FSU. And no, he is not a coach. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's like a coach. No, he is not a coach. He is an athlete, an elite athlete at that. But ladies and gentlemen, in 2026, he led the Broncos to the CIAA championship and was named both the CIAA Player of the Year and the 2026 HBCU All-Star Game MVP. Shout out to you, Mr. Larry, and I give you props for that, bro, because that's
Appreciate it.
that's a huge achievement for you to have. And like me and do say all the time, is that what people need to understand is that HBCU athletes are just as competitive and as elite as these Power 5 schools are, but they don't take a lot of time and research to actually invest in players like you. So to jump into the questions here, Ms. Al, the way I do my questions, I tell all I guess this, but the way I do my questions is that I do chapters and I give you the name of the question, then I tell you the question. So to jump into chapter one, I wrote this down. It's called Career and Achievement Questions. Okay. Now, this question that I have for you is called On the MVP Win. So, Mr. Howell, you recently won the 2026 HBCU All-Star Game MVP, and after, a 23-point performance. Can't really talk today, y'all. Forgive your boy. How does it feel to represent FSU and the CIAA on such a high-profile national stage?
It's it's really exciting, and it means a lot to me just because like kind of much the path I took to get to where I'm at today. And for me to just be able to just go out there and just do what I love to do and do it at the highest level that I know I can do, and on top of that win is just an amazing feeling. Just this whole year in general, like it's been so much that has happened. Like sometimes it take a minute for you just to really sit in and really soak in all your, achievements. But it's just so much going on that's happening day in and day out. It's just like, when do I ever get a chance to just really embrace what all I did? But honestly, like, a lot of times I'm just lost for words, because I just some you my story from where I'm from, like, it's not really that heard of. So for me to
Right.
just be able to do that is just amazing.
And then, just like staying on the topic of, their accolades, when did you just figure out that this was your year? Because you started getting accolades from the start of the year, and you were in the preseason team. So when did you just know that it was going to be your year?
To be honest, coming like after losing last year with Bluefield State, in the chip game, knowing that who all was leaving and stuff, I kind of was going into the summer with a chip on my shoulder. And I went into the summer and I'm playing against a lot of high level competition. I already got these goals set out of what I want to do. I want to win. I want to win the CI chip. I want to get player of the year. From the jump, as soon as I got home from Bluefield in the summer, the work was being done, and I was just like, I just seen the progression coming rapidly. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm due for mine. Like, I'm due for a big year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And planning your senior year and just having all those achievements, that just shows you that just how passionate you are about the game, and how far you're willing to go in the game of basketball. Because for some athletes, basketball is just a side gig to do, but there are some athletes like you, Mr. Howell. It's a lifetime dream. It's a lifetime dream for a lot of guys, especially wanting to go to the next level. And what I mean by next level, I mean the NBA. But what the NBA has failed to do in years to come is look at HBCU players and just see how just elite they are. That's why me and Deuce were talking about just how important it is to have the HBCU All Star game, because I was telling this is kind of like the Pro Bowl in the NFL. You're looking at talented athletes from different teams, but in the HBCU side and college basketball wise, you're looking at talented level from each school, and that's very important. But it's also important for media attention and guys like you to be recognized by the NBA, by the Women's National NBA, that it's elite. It's elite over here at HBCUs. Let's take some time to look at just how elite these guys, these girls are, and grab them and draft them. Because that's another thing. A lot of HBCU players, they don't get drafted by these pro organizations compared to these Power 5 schools are. But that's kind of why what me do what we do is to let the NBA, let the women's NBA know that don't sleep on HBCU players. Because when you sleep on HBCU players, you sleep on the university. And, that's why we try to do as best as we can. Like I said, we're not the biggest sports show in the world, but we do what we can. We basically we do enough. Let me put it like
Yeah.
that. But like I said, shout out to you and all your achievements, man. First and foremost, let me say on behalf of me and Deuce, we're proud of you, and shout out to FSU as well on the achievement that y'all made on winning that championship, conference championship as well.
Sir, thank you.
Absolutely, my brother. So we're gonna jump into chapter 2 here. My second question, but before I give you the second question, this chapter is called HBCU Experience and Culture. But the question here it is. It's called on the FSU environment. Okay.
Okay.
So FSU has a rich basketball tradition. How has the unique culture and the support from the FSU community shaped your development as both a player and as a marketing student?
Hmm. So coming, okay. So transferring in, they off the rip, they were like really big on like your credits and your grades and stuff, making sure you got enough credits coming in, making sure you're ready to graduate. So when it comes to the education side of the school, like, they're very, very, they're on it. They want to make sure they see you succeed. They want you to, do good things in life, which is big for me. Although I love basketball dearly, like, I want to make sure when it comes to, that next stage of life, that I'm good. Like, I know how that I feel secure when I'm out in the real world outside of basketball. And then on top of that, you got the environment. Like, it's, to be honest, like, this is my first time experiencing something like this. So, the environment is just super different coming in. Like, We're
Yeah.
just, everybody, a lot of people. Like, I was nervous coming in. 'Cause I'm like, I don't really know how they going, how they gonna treat me coming in, coming from Bluefield. We beat them in the playoffs last year. I'm like, they might not like me, woo woo. But off the rip, they was open arms. Like, you know, with the guys that came in, we all have this kind of energy around us, with us that we carry, which is super like outgoing and it's very vibrant. So it's kind of hard for people to just be like, forget y'all XYZ, So they was really, really open. They invited us in, and just everybody around the school just like just open arms. Like, that's all I can really say. Is just it really feel like a family, and Bronco for life for sure.
And the one thing I always talk about, and I'm glad Michael brought this up, is we always talk about the culture of HBCUs because a lot of HBCUs, they have their own culture, their own identity. Can you just describe the culture of your HBCU?
Uh Shoot. Ah. So first, like, it's I don't even know how to really explain it. Everybody just got this own, like, it's their own like swag, like, everybody, it's Fayetteville State, like, 2-6, that's what they call it, home of J. Cole, you got Dennis Smith from here and all that. Like, everybody, is everybody's going, the weather out here is nice, that, throw little parties and stuff, woo woo. Like, it's just like the culture, the band is great, football great, like the athletic program here is absolutely insane. Like,
Hmm.
we had four, like almost four sports win the conference chip this year. So it's like, when it comes to like that, it's a super, like, it's an athletic school, but it's like the I don't even know. Like, it's great. Like, honestly, it's like it's a great experience. Definitely.
That's one thing about, those questions like that, Deuce, and, kind of like the questions I asked. It's so hard to describe a culture, especially at an HBCU, even if you're on that campus. But I can definitely understand why it's so tough to explain, Miss Al, because like you just say, every university has their own culture, has their own swag. But from what I have witnessed and what Deuce has witnessed is that FSU has a lit university, has a very unique fan base, has a very unique athletic department, like you just explained. And that's the thing that we try to get people to understand is that when you come to an HBCU, you're not just coming there just to attend and go to class and get your degree. You're there to experience the legacy of why it or why FSU is FSU and why it's an historical black university because of the fact of, like I said, the environment, the vibe. That's one thing the HBCUs and Power Four and Power Five schools can't compare. Is that at HBCUs you have a vibe, you have a historical culture and community. In Power Four, Power Five schools, you probably have that, but you don't have the vibe that an HBCU has. You can't compare it.
Yeah,
So
it's something every day. Like, it'll come, like the other day we went outside, the park. Like, man, let's just go out and hoop one day. Like, the gym was closed. We just go out and hoop at the park. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we just, like, I'm a type of person. I'm like, I'm not really a person that's super standoffish or Hollywood. I'm to myself. But like, if you somebody want to talk to me or ask me to do something, I do it. Like, I didn't. A lot of people didn't do that to me. So if somebody asked me to do something, I'll do it. So we just go outside, have fun. We at the park. Just something going on every day. You got little field days, like you said. Like, you can't really explain it. Like, you're not really gonna get that at another school outside of HBCU.
exactly, exactly, and I'm kind of glad that you backed me up on that one. And I'm glad you backed us both up on that one because a lot of people think it's easy to describe that. I mean, it might be easy for some people, but honestly, I couldn't even explain it even if I was there. I can even like I live like 30 minutes from Graham State University, and it's hard to explain the culture there because it's different.
Yeah,
It's lit still, but it's different. And then Southern is different. It's different at every single HBCU. It doesn't matter really the state that you live in. It's just really it's still hard to describe a culture at an HBCU. It's still lit, but every university has its own different culture.
most definitely.
But we're still in chapter two on my end, Mr. Howell. This question is called HBCU legacy. Basically, Deuce they already asked. I believe he asked you this, but I'm gonna ask this anyway because this is what I planned on asking you. So, what does HBCU pride mean to you personally? especially now that you secured the CIAA championship for the Broncos? What does this for you pride mean to you?
It's to me it means it's always putting on for your school and always showing love to your school. Cause you can rep HBCU or say, HBCU pride, but then you just, oh, I'm done. So let me just leave it alone. Like I don't even want to worry about it anymore. But HBCU pride, like you gotta really be prideful about it. Like if this your school and you went here and you love your school, then show that you love your school. Like it need to be it can't be day and night. Like if you prideful about it and you love it, you gotta love it every day. Like, show love to your school and spread the word about your school. Don't let people just go bad mouth your school and stuff like that. Like, speak up about your school and tell them the real. Don't let people just go out here spreading false information.
Yeah, and because I always tell people here at Gremlin this: if as long as you're on this campus, you don't talk down on your HBCU. At least try to talk, positive about it, or just don't say anything about it. But the one last question I just want to ask you is, you mentioned how you just came and they were welcoming, but one of the questions I want to ask you is, as a senior, how did you take that step up to like control the locker room and control the culture and just take that step up as a leader?
Um, it was challenging at first, being that, I'm the captain and they look at Larry to be the leader and stuff. It was challenging at first because, a lot of the weight goes on you. Win the game, the praise you lose the game, it's all your fault. So, that was an adjustment to make. But my last year, the guard ahead of me, the senior last year, Jordan Hines, I kind of like, got tips and tricks from him, just kind of how to like be a voice. And I'm not really one that's super loud. I kind of let my play on the court shows. I'm known as an energy giver. So if I'm having good energy and I'm playing with high energy, the team usually follows. And that's kind of what I take. And just our culture off the court. Like a lot of people just kind of look at it as, oh, it's just hoops and whenever you're on the court. But the off the court matters the most to me. Like off the court, like we still hang out every day. Like we go to the gym at the same time. We go to the calf at the same time. We come back from the calf, still chilling after the calf, after we've been in the calf about an hour, hour and a half. So it's like that stuff is what matters the most, is because it's more than just basketball. Like with me, with them, like it'll always be more than basketball. Like these are relationships that I will ever have, and that stuff carried on to the court. So it's like when we're getting on with our teammates, it's not out of spite, it's not out of anything like that. We love you and we want to see the best out of you. So if you slacking off, be like, hey yo, bro, tighten up, come on, fix it, let's get it right. Now let's go hoop. Like it was just that simple with us.
Perfect response. And it's just like that. I can say that because I'm in the band here at Gremlin. So, it's just like that too. We always hold each other accountable. When we see one of our, fellow brothers or sisters just taking like or slacking off, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and there's a such thing on being a great leader, but it's also up to your teammates to be disciplined enough to hear that leadership advice from you, because discipline is everything. And like you just said, if a person is slacking, and you talk to them, you try to pick themselves up, because when I played high school football, that was one of our main things, is picking each other up when we're down. Whether we were running, whether we were out practicing, or whatever, weight room, whatever. We were always making sure that we picked up one another. And there were times, that there were some teammates, that just didn't want to hear all that. They were stuck in their own mind, and that's okay and all, but that's not a good picture. That's not a good picture for you as an athlete. You know, it's our job. It's my job as a teammate, or it's my job as a senior or a coach to pick you up. But it's also at the same time, it's up to you. Where is your mind at, discipline wise? Are you going to receive what I'm telling you, or are you going to be, I hate to say this, or are you going to be ignorant about it? And if you're going to be ignorant about it, then that's going to kill your style of play, because ignorance is not a good thing to have as an athlete, especially as a teammate.
Hmm.
But to jump into my last chapter and last question for you, Ms. Howell, this chapter is called Future and Leadership. But this question is called On a Professional Goals for You. You've expressed interest in playing professionally after graduation. My question to you is, how has that high pressure, fast paced system at FSU prepared you for the next level of basketball?
Mm. Shoot. This the system we play is a lot of different. It's really different because, you know, outside of the people that run it right now, this it's a kind of slower pace. So um it's helped me in ways whereas it's easy for me to adapt, because when we played in the HBCU All-Star game, it was fast paced, but it wasn't our type, the fast pace that I played this year. And I've always been a player. I always play basketball the right way. I'm not the type of that go gunning shots or anything like that. I let the game come to me, and whenever it's time for me to make a play, I can make a play. But when it comes to that next step, that next level, just the kind of the how can I say it? Like the kind of like how I've been wired over the past 2 years, it just kind of been like so. It's like this. So like once I get in this kind of rhythm, it's hard for me to get out of it because I've been doing it all year. So I mean, right now it's just like I'm just still stuck in that same rhythm. I took a couple of days off, but I'm back to it already. I'm doing it each and every day.
Perfect response. Perfect response. And Michael, did you have anything uh to follow up on that?
No. Well, yes, actually, I agree on Mr. Howell, what you're saying because it's certain levels to the game of basketball, and it's just really how much information are you willing to take to get better. Kobe said it best. Practice makes perfect, but at the same time, it's also how much practice you put in as a player, game in and game out. And like you said, HC All Star game, it was fast paced, and for some players, in reality wise, it's kind of hard to adjust to that. But at the same time, it's just about how much practice and mindset you're willing to put in to make sure that you're fitting that pace. Because a lot of players, they don't, I mean, a lot of coaches, they don't like when a player slows down. They don't like when a player is half stepping stuff. And because that affects the team and it also affects you as an individual player. But, you know, what I can tell you is that keep making sure as an athlete that that you don't fall off. And I know that in particular, but like I try to tell every single guest that we have on here, um, in my opinion, you're doing very, very well. First of all, if no one has told you that, here at HBCU Central, we try to support every single athlete. And Mr. Howell, I can basically tell you that
Bless you.
Thank
the fast-paced system is not affecting you at all. Basically, you're immune to it. Basically, as as some folks say, as some parents say, you're just immune to it, and that's good because I'd rather be immune to something than just be half immune and just be like, yeah, I'm good, but on the inside, no, I'm not. Because that's also a mental thing, and I don't know if that makes sense, but that is also a mental thing to make sure that you are comfortable with the fast pace because com- having the comfort to make sure that you're fitting the team's system is very important. It's very important. So what I can tell you is, Mr. Howell, you've done a great job uh, with the system that y'all have at FSU. We've paid a lot of attention to just how well of a season you guys have had, especially in the conference championship game. It's I'm trying to say how I put this. It's very high energetic. It's very high energetic. And like I said, on behalf of what we do here at HBCU Central, we respect you. We respect Fayetteville, if I'm saying it correctly. Uh,
Fayetteville.
uh, Say it again.
Fayetteville.
Okay. Yeah. Um, we respect y'all, and I apologize if I did not say it correctly, y'all. Y'all forgive your boy, but I stand with the Bronco Nation. I stand with the Bronco Nation. Let me put it like that.
Yes, sir.
Um, But all I can really tell y'all is congratulations on the season that y'all had. I really hope that y'all can continue this dominance, and I hope that after this episode, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching, that this spoke high volume to you. We kind of went over 10 to 20 minutes. I don't remember how long we know to keep guests for, Deuce, but like I said, when we have episodes like this, and how it's just good conversation, just brothers being brothers, just talking to each other about the game of basketball.
No doubt.
And you know, I'm very excited for you and your future, but I'm also very excited that you actually took the time to be on our little sports show that we have here for HBCU. So we appreciate you. Like I said, we're not the biggest, but we try to be as very professional and energetic and fun as possible for all athletes and coaches. So on behalf of me, I want to tell you thank you so much, bro, for not only responding but actually coming on here and enjoying what we got here for you. And we hope that after this, you will be down enough to come back and not just represent FSU, but represent yourself, and hopefully you'll be looked at as an NBA prospect because you should. You should be, and I hope you are. Because if you're not, I'm gonna talk to the NBA myself. Like, hey, y'all tripping. Uh, but uh, but that's really all I got, man. I don't mean to talk long, but like I said, when I get guys or girl athletes like y'all, or I just get very excited because it means that we're doing something very very important for each university and community. But dude, I'm gonna pass the mic on to you because I really don't have anything else to say. But Mr. Howell, shout out to you. I appreciate you. I respect you, and I love the game that you have put out for FSU. And I hope that you make it to the next level, my guy.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say this before we get you going. Shout out to you mainly. Shout out to you for everything that you've done. The couple last few seasons and mainly this season. Also, shout out to y'all's university. You mentioned y'all's athletics program. They pretty much won the championship in about, you said four of their
I'm like, it's been a couple of them for sure because it was us, golf, bowling.
Yep.
Yeah, it's about three. If
Yeah,
I,
and
if I'm missing that, but yeah, it was a good, and volleyball. So yeah, four. Yeah,
yeah, so that's shout out to them because that's more media exposure for the HBCUs, and especially the conference like the CIA. Sometimes and often they get overlooked by the MEAC and the SWAC. So it's important that even our smaller conferences get as much love as possible. But like Michael said, shout out to you, shout out to everything that you're doing. We hope and I know that you will make it to the next level and whatever you got planned next in life. Thank you for joining, and thank you for just taking time out of your day.
yes,
We
sir.
support
I appreciate y'all, man.
You're
you,
welcome.
brother.
So, Michael, our next topic on the show is Bethune-Cookman again. And the craziest part is we were talking about the baseball team a couple weeks ago, and we said, okay, a statement win like this, it has to get them noise. But we said it was going to be pretty evident that some people were going to try to just find ways around it. But they came back and beat Florida just this week, and way more margin and way more fashion than they did against LSU. What's what's the excuse now? For our HBCUs. And look, Mike, I was saying this even about all the HBCUs, just some like Bethune-Cookman. They may not get ranked, right? Because it's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and we all got our opinions on that. We got our opinions on it. I believe Bethune-Cookman should at least be, if not at the bottom of the top 25, right on the outside looking into the top 25. But you could say, look, it's a different conference, but that's a debate for a whole nother episode. But Michael, what I want to ask you is just what are your thoughts? Because if Bethune-Cookman can beat these SEC teams, it's been shown that other HBCUs can do the exact same with the type of roster and the type of talent that Bethune-Cookman has. And if anything, right now, it's time to start looking at HBCU baseball, HBCU sports, because Bethune did this 2 times this year. Then you got Alabama State who did it to Alabama State who did it. You had South Carolina State's team who did. It's been happening this year, and it should not take beating 2 SEC teams for you to finally start to realize that Bethune-Cookman is a good baseball program, because this is what the media has been trying to tell people for years, but it's like nobody was listening.
And they're going to do everything in their power to make sure they don't listen. But I'm gonna basically ask the question that you just asked. What's the excuse now? Y'all claim LSU was struggling.
Is
Well,
Florida struggling too? But they were ranked top.
they were ranked 7. They were ranked in the top 10. So I'm trying to figure out what's the excuse now. I'm really trying to hear. I'm trying to hear what the voices are saying right now. because the fact that there is so much hate on Bethune-Cookman and they beat not just LSU, but they beat Florida. First of all, in their own state of Florida, because let me remind you for people that don't know, Bethune-Cookman is in Florida. So not only do you play baseball in Florida, and not only are you an HBCU, but then you go up north of Florida, if I remember correctly, and you beat an SEC Florida team, which is the Florida Gators, and they're in the top, and they were ranked seventh in the top 10. Dudes, I'm trying to figure out what's the excuse now.
I'm gonna say this. Look, but look, I'm looking at the what's called box score right now, and I watched the game too. I watched the game too.
I
It
saw
was
that.
it was close. It was close majority of the game, and the sixth inning actually, Florida got back in the game and was up with Bethune-Cookman. The average person would think, okay, Florida's just going to take off from there. No, the next inning, Bethune-Cookman went and scored 7 runs, and to close it off with 1 in the ninth inning. Bethune-Cookman never stopped their foot off the gas pedal. And
Right.
look, I don't know if Florida came into this game saying, "Oh, this is just a midweek game. It's a smaller school. We don't have to take it seriously." I don't know, but this should be a wake up call to all these bigger schools because it happens in basketball all the time. All the time, it gets close to beating them, and Grambling almost did it this year. Bethune basketball team almost did it. Like, one thing I'm gonna say this real quick. Shout out to Bethune's athletics program this year. Shout out, because they have been making some noise in every sport. Michael, I know you remember we were talking about them a lot during football season.
Mhm.
So shout out to them. But let me say this to the Power Five. And look, I'm gonna say this. Me personally, I don't have no hate to the Power Four in the G5 conference. I don't, because I watched them myself. But the thing I just don't like is how they try to discredit what HBCUs do and produce because of the skill gap that y'all see. And let me say this. Yes, there's a skill gap, but it's mainly in part due to there's not the same resources that these bigger schools have at these HBCUs. So let me say this: a win like this over a school like this, Florida, who was ranked. Oh yeah, you're not. I'm gonna keep talking about it till someone tells me to shut. Not even tells me to shut. I'm gonna keep talking about it because for someone schools that often talk down on HBCUs, they may not say it all the time in public, but I know they talk about them.
They talk
And
about it.
before this game, I know people are saying, "Oh, this is gonna be an easy game." No, I'm going to keep talking. I'm gonna keep talking because Bethune-Cookman came into this game and proved why you should never sleep on the HBCU, because an HBCU can get you in a trap game anytime. We always talk about trap games, Michael, and HBCUs are the team just to come catch you up on the trap game. Jackson State did it. ASU did it in football. They almost did it in football in beating UAB. So trap games, and the HBCUs are not the team to sleep on.
Absolutely. And then, dude, so I'm gonna tell you this right now. They can sleep on HBCUs all they want to, but you can't sit here and say the HBCUs don't have just at the elite level, just like these Power Four and G5 schools. And dudes, I'm gonna back you on what you're saying. I think Alabama State. I think they had played. I think it was University of South Alabama. It was a Sun Belt Conference team. They beat them. If that's the team that I remember correctly, but I believe it was University of South Alabama. But dudes, I'm just gonna go on and break this down right quick before I give any more of my opinion here. Let me do this right quick. Bethune-Cookman's recent dominance, ladies and gentlemen, over SEC powerhouses marks a historic shift in how HBCU baseball competition is perceived and respected nationally. Within a single week, in April 2026, Deuce, the Wildcats defeated reigning national champion number 24 ranked LSU 10-7 and number 7 Florida 13-7 on the road. But dudes, I'm gonna go deeper here. Can I go deeper?
Yes.
Let me give you the deeper root on why for HBCU competition this achievement signifies several key milestones. Number one, validation of elite status. I put elite in parentheses, dudes, because let me tell you why. No, I put it in quotations. Let me tell you why. Head coach Jonathan Hernandez noted that these wins provide proof that HBCU programs can operate at an elite level, capable of out hitting and out pitching the nation's top programs despite significantly smaller budgets. Number two, blueprint for mid majors. Bethune-Cookman's success dues achieved with a shoestring budget, and a limited staff serves, watch this, as a blueprint for other HBCUs. It demonstrates that program community returning nearly the entire roster and coaching staff can bridge the resource gap between the SWAC and Power 5 conferences. Number three, recruiting and, watch this, visibility. Hold on. Historic wins like these act as a signal to high-level recruits that they can achieve national visibility and defeat the top-tier competition at an HBCU. Bethune-Cookman's performance led to calls from HBCU sports and other outlets for the program to be ranked in the national top 25. Dudes, I'm going to give you my opinion on that in just a second. Let me give you this last tip here. Evaluating the SWAC. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. As the current leader in the SWAC standings, Bethune-Cookman's success brings prestige to the entire conference, highlighting that the level of talent across HBCU baseball, that's why I put in parentheses, is a deep enough to sweep ranked ACC programs on their own turf. Now, let me circle back to why Bethune-Cookman should be ranked in the next top 25. First and foremost, they should be in there because not only did they beat two SEC baseball teams, they beat two teams that represent the SEC, which is one of the hardest conferences to beat any of these schools. But Bethune-Cookman just proved this twice, and Alabama State proved, and I forgot the other school that you just listed. But they also, all these HBCUs just proved that even though, yes, we are HBCUs, but we are just as elite as these, we are just as elite as these powerful Power 5 schools are. But dudes, this is the point that we constantly make every single episode and almost every single week and month. Is that these HBCUs are constantly being slept on because they are a small school with a small budget, with a small coaching staff, and a small roster. But make no mistake, Bethune-Cookman literally just put that statement out in the open. Because now you got First Take coming into the mix. Understanding now, dudes, just how dominant HBCUs can be. But it's media outlets like First Take who are now understanding, but my thing is they need to be understanding this way more than just beating some ranked schools. They need to understand that HBCUs are just as elite. The conferences are just as elite. The baseball teams are just as elite. The coaches, the players, all of that. HBCUs are just as elite as these Power 4, Power 5, G5 schools are.
And we may not get the same outcomes, but I just want to say this. We all know the reason why. We all know the reason why. And if it was on the same level, I guarantee you, if HBCUs had that exact same, treatment as these bigger schools.
Wow, sir, I'm telling you.
The retention rate that these HBCUs will have due to people not transferring.
People not transferring. Listen, that is the whole point that I'm trying to make. That's the whole point I'm trying to make here. That's why I broke this down. That's why I go deeper here, because people need to understand the deeper root on why this is such important for the HBCU community, because it's respect from us. We are gaining respect from the national world. We're gaining respect from LSU. We're gaining respect from Florida. And first of all, shout out to Bethune-Cookman for even beating LSU in the state of Florida, because that is hard to do. And the fact that they put their name out there in their own state of Florida, that tells you something right there. But dudes, first of all, let me say this. Bethune-Cookman fan base, students, alumni, coaches, or whatever. If you're watching this, shout out to y'all. Shout out to your university. Shout out to your athletic department. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. It's not just Bethune-Cookman that we're doing shout out for. Shout out to all HBCUs that are standing up against these Power 5 schools, performing at an elite level. And these Power 5 schools don't know what to say. Dudes, I've never seen These Power 5 school coaches, they be having the most shockingest look on their face. I'm like, wow. I wasn't expecting us to, lose like this. You want to know why you weren't saying that? Because you weren't looking at us as a threat. They're gonna see it, dude. Reality. Let's be real. They're gonna see it and say, "Oh no, we looked at them as a threat." Not really. Not really. Because
And,
facial expressions mean everything. That's why the cameras always put their cameras on coaches' expressions, and it takes a real person with common sense to just know what that person is thinking. And dudes, I've seen these coaches. I've seen their facial expression and the comments that they make. They don't be expecting this. They don't be expecting this, and they don't know what to do after they lose. And then they be trying to make it seem. They be trying to make excuses. They be trying to defend themselves. You can't defend dominance. And that's what Bethune-Cookman just did. They came in, let me put it this way. They did not back down from y'all. And this is why I try to tell all HBCUs, don't back down from none of these Power 5 schools. I don't even care if they're ranked or they got a loud fan base. Stand 10 toes down because they will understand how HBCU culture works.
and it's really, honestly, to me, it's just like, it's kind of breathtaking because we keep talking about Bethune, but it's just like, I'm just thinking about it. Looking back at the program that their athletics program, it's just been, they may have not won the championship and everything, but their program has been putting a lot of people on notice. Football team had a very good chance to win their respective division and, make it to the SWAC championship. The basketball team was the best team in, all of basketball. And then, unfortunately, Prairie View came up and upset, or Prairie View came into the tournament and they won the tournament. And Bethune lost the tournament. Baseball, they're making noises, 2 SEC wins against ranked opponents. The girls, the women's sports, volleyball is doing levels right now, as well as the softball team. It's just crazy to look at. And, it shouldn't take success, though, for people to recognize the good that HBCU's already got going on.
That is exactly that's exactly what I'm trying to preach this entire week.
And one thing I want to say this, because like, I want to use Mississippi Valley, for example. They may not have the best record in all of sports. They may have not. But I guarantee you, if you go to a game and you go to that campus, you will find something that you enjoy about it. And Mississippi Valley is just they're in a predicament because they've been hurt for so long from people just not going there, that their athletics programs are just taking the fall from it. And it's going to take a while for them to recover because, if a school is not doing well after a while, people are not going to want to go there and commit there. But, let me say this. It's a matter of time before stuff like that, gets all fixed and stuff. But don't sleep on our HBCUs, because when they're not even doing at their best, they're still doing something good at that school. It can be on the academic side of things. It can be on the sports side of things. It can be on the music. And HBCU is always going to have some type of achievement because we see it every week, just if it's not in the athletic side of things. But speaking of our next topic, Norfolk State over in the MEAC, Michael Vick, we did talk about that Norfolk State and Michael Vick. That was a good signing. And it was going to take some time. We've been talking about Norfolk State all of football season. But the one thing I want to talk about is because Michael Vick just came out and said he's not tolerating 1-11 again, and he wants that respect. He wants to earn that respect from the conference. And it's not like Norfolk State actually did bad, because they really didn't. They lost a lot of their games by one-score games, Michael. It was a lot of one-score games. Delaware State, they came back and almost beat them. Like I can go down the list. They lost a lot of their games by one score. And Michael, we just said this all season. My coach Vic just needs to get a couple of things to go right for this program, to start seeing the good, start seeing the winning side again. What are your thoughts about that?
Yep. Let me give you four key things on what Michael Vick and Norfolk State need to do in order to gain respect from the national world. To regain national respect in 2026, Coach Michael Vick and Norfolk State, basically NSU, for the people that don't know the abbreviations of Norfolk State. They must execute at a multi-phase cultural overhaul. That's why I put in quotation, cultural overhaul. And what I mean by that is to move past a 1-11 inaugural season. Coach Vick has explicitly stated that year 2 is about proving the program can operate at an elite level through discipline and roster reconstruction. But dudes, can I go deeper here? I want to go deeper right quick. Here's the deep breakdown of what needs to happen to regain that respect, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this. Number one, stabilize the quarterback position. What I mean by that is the 2025 season was derailed by a persistent quarterback controversy between transfer, I believe I'm saying his name right, Israel Carter, and veteran Otto Canute. To regain respect, Vic must, watch this, establish a clear quarterback number one. After Carter's transfer, Vic recruited four new quarterbacks, used two high schools and two transfers. What next thing? Implement Vic toughness. That's why I put in parentheses. Implement Vic toughness. What I mean by that is, ladies and gentlemen, is that during the 2026 spring practice, Vic made quarterbacks live. That's why I put in quotations. Live. What I mean by that is eligible to be tackled. To force them to showcase toughness and leadership early. And dudes, I can't really blame them here because a lot of coaches, they don't really do this live technique. They don't do that. But it builds your quarterback's toughness. It builds your mindset of leadership in your quarterbacks because it all starts with the quarterback. Because I don't know, a lot of people don't know, but quarterback is one of the most important positions on offense. But number two, drastic defensive improvement. Dude's Norfolk defense ranked last in the MEAC in 2025, allowing 34.1 points per game. Regaining respect requires, watch this, scheme mastery. What I mean by that is, dudes, Vic noted that during the 2026 spring game, the defense finally began to understand the scheme and play as a cohesive unit rather than individuals. Number two, leverage elite transfers. The addition of AFCA, All American Defensive End, I believe I'm saying his name right, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm not, I do apologize. Isi Itu and Florida transfer Joshua Davis is intended to provide veteran leadership the unit lacked last year. Number three, watch this, dudes. Eliminate self-inflicted errors. Ooh, I wanted to touch base on this one. Vic has frequently cited beating ourselves as the reason for the 1-11 record, specifically pointing to high penalty counts and a negative 11 turnover margin. You can't have all them penalties, dudes, because what we talk about all the time, the more you have penalties, the more you lose games. And I know you know that, dude, because that's what Gremlin lacked at in numerous seasons. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Grand Fam, but I had to be real right there. But here's some things that I want to touch base on number three. Provide in details. Vic's phase one, dudes, of his four-phase plan focuses on strength, conditioning, and pride in every snap. To eliminate mental lapses late in games. Dudes, you literally just said it that Norfolk State had a lot of close games that they could have won. But why did they not win those games? Because of the mental lapses in those late games. You can't have those. Because when you have mental late lapses, you lose games. And that's what happened in Norfolk State last year. They would have had way better record than 1-11, but like Mr. Vic just stated, eliminate mental lapses late in games. Dudes, I guarantee you, if Norfolk State can eliminate those, they'll win more games this year. Watch this though. Transparent leadership. Here's another thing. Vic has vowed a different brand of football in 2026. He's using his BET documentaries to hold himself and his staff politically accountable for the program growth. Last thing, dudes, watch this. Number four, prove it against power competition. Dudes, the respect Vic seeks will ultimately be won or lost in the first 3 weeks of the 2026 season. And the reason why I say that is, ladies and gentlemen, is because one, on August 29th versus Winston-Salem State, a must-win home opener to break the losing streak. Second one, September 5th against Old Dominion, a crosstown rivalry game to prove NSU can compete with FBS programs. Last one, September 11th at Virginia, An historic Friday night matchup in Charlottesville, excuse me, where a competitive performance against an ACC foe would gain massive national attention. Dudes, year two can go one or two ways. They can go good or it can go bad. But I don't think that Norfolk State is going to come back to the 1-11 start. Like I said, dudes, we say this all the time. You can be a Hall of Fame coach or a Hall of Fame player, but in order to rebuild a brand or a franchise, it's levels. It's levels to that. Phase one is just to see where your team is at. At Norfolk State, they had a lot of struggles when Michael Vick came, and he noticed that. It was also a growing development for him because he even said to himself, "This is a growing stage for me." And then in year two, it's personal because now he understands. And he literally stated that the game has slowed down for him. He literally said that, dude. So now in year two, expect more firepower, expect more excitement, expect more explosive, expect more defensive leverage, expect more turnover margins on defense, expect more scoring on defense, expect better coaching from Michael Vick and his coaching staff, expect better fan base environment for Norfolk State University. Dudes, there are some good things that can happen in year two. There are good things that can happen for Michael Vick and Norfolk
And,
State.
and I got a lot of confidence in Michael Vick because, like we just said, literally, Michael Vick, he just need to get coach. He just need to get his feet just like set. This is something new for him, and this conference, the MEAC conference, you can really at this point say it. They are kind of better than the SWAC because they've beaten the SWAC in the Celebration Bowl and the HBCU MEAC kickoff. So
Nope.
right now, you could argue that this is a harder conference that he's playing in and he's coaching in. And look, he still got it. It's new when you're getting used to transfer portal recruiting and stuff like that. But I believe that Coach Vic got his foot on the ground and he knows what he's doing. But
He does.
for our
And
you got yeah.
no. I just wanted to specifically say because I know a lot of people are going to see it and say, well, building a franchise, building up a brand, I mean, Coach Deshaun Jackson didn't have to go through that. That's true. But see, here's the difference, and we got on coaches like Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick, is that he just determines where that team is at when that person gets there. It literally happened with Deion Sanders. Okay, and I hate to say this, and I know I don't mean to offend a lot of Southern fans, but it could literally go that way for Southern. It could possibly go that way for Southern, regardless of how many on how many good players that they have. Because I know a lot of people have been trying to speak high volume on Southern and their practices. That's good and all.
I
I
need
respect
more. I need more in-game I need like more actual. They need to compete against another team, and
compete.
and I know that's jumping to a different topic. But let me say this really quick. You, I'm not trying to make it sound like you're hating or I'm hating, but just when people say, "Oh, Southern got the size, they got the speed this season," no, I need to see it against another team before I start to make assumptions. And the one thing I always say about this, really, your first three games is kind of like your measuring stick before you go into conference play. And really, your first two games in conference play determine, it might not determine, but show kind of give you a feel for how that team is going to play, throughout, the regular
Yeah,
season.
absolutely, and that is the thing here. We're not saying that. First of all, I don't want no Southern fans talking about we're being petty, we're being negative, stuff like that. No, what we're saying here is that sometimes what looks good in practice does not mean it's going to look good in the regular season. You can have a big offensive line, and then when it comes down to competition wise, they don't match that. What I'm saying is, I see what Southern got, and I respect it, and I love it. I love everything they got going on there. Dudes, they got a 6'9" tight end. I like it. But it's the same way with Norfolk State. It's the same way with all these Hall of Fame coaches there. First of all, I appreciate Marshall Falk for even coming to Southern. I appreciate Michael Vick for even coming to Norfolk State. I appreciate Deshaun Jackson for even coming to Delaware State. I appreciate all these big time phone players taking their experience, their leadership, and their coaching style to these HBCUs, getting these players the media attention that the media is already not giving them. But we're specifically trying to say is that, well, sometimes what looks good in practice does not determine your season. It takes some competition to really match that. Because like I said before, you can have a dominant recruiting and have a bad season. Like I said last episode when it came down to Grambling and all the transfers that they got. I'm with it. But at the same time, you can have a good recruiter, and even first of all, this shout out to Mr. McCormick because he even agreed what I said. You can have an elite recruiting class and have a bad season at the same time. What determines how your season is going to go is how each game plays and how your players come out and perform and get the win. Because I'm gonna tell you this right now, it's not easy to get these wins, especially not in conference play. So you got to go and get it, and it's about all these players winning up to go get it. Because honestly, size and build is good and all, but how much hunger do they have?
Conference play is hard to get wins in because I'm gonna say this from looking at Gremlin's thing. Gremlin came into conference play looking hot, and they dropped a game to Texas Southern, Prairie View, Alcorn, Southern 2-10, Southern that we was talking about for weeks, that we literally kept telling people not to sleep on. Gremlin is had one of the best seasons. Shout out to Gremlin. Look, Gremlin's had one of the best seasons they've had in years. Southern is 2-10. If anybody knows how to beat you, it's your rival. If any team knows how to beat you for sure, it's a team in your conference. The SWAC.
We literally preached about that. I literally preached about that. But before the bike class even started, I said, regardless of Southern being 2-10, they will come in. I guarantee you can see me on they want to, but I would not be surprised if they win them big Grambling.
They came and they treated being like Graham like it was their Super Bowl. And look, all the Graham fan was mad, but I was mad at first because the way they lost, off of a fumble was kind of like. But let me say, I was like this. I told you. At the end, I literally said, I told you. You couldn't sleep on them. You just can't sleep on them. And speaking of next season or football, Jackson State has released their schedule. They released a couple weeks back, Michael. And I've been posting predict their schedules on our HBCU Central page. But just a couple things to just go down before we even start talking about this. One thing I like about Jackson State is they're not playing your Power 5, Power 4 schools this year. They're not. And I say this all the time. I hate when they do that. It's a love-hate relationship when they do that, because I hate it for the fact that sometimes if the program is not good enough, that team can go get exposed and make a program look horrible. Like I'm gonna say for like how Ohio State did Grambling, for instance, the average person would have thought Grambling was one of the worst schools ever, but when Grambling went back to their conference, they did pretty well despite losing some games that they dropped. But Jackson State, I like that they didn't schedule your Power 4, Power 5 schools, your FBS schools this year. Instead, they got your smaller HBCUs to go and play. You got Tuskegee, you got Edward Waters, 2 home games at that. And one thing that Jackson State and Tuskegee, they will pack out the crowd. That first game I like against Tennessee State, Michael. One thing I kept saying about Jackson State or Tennessee State is how are they going to bounce back from last season. And a true test is going to be against Jackson State. Jackson State, unfortunately, did not get the results they wanted last year. They fell just short of the championship game. And, we got, a whole different matchup than what, people expected or like in the Celebration Bowl. But, Michael, what are your thoughts?
Dude, I'm going to basically be honest with you. First and foremost, a lot of people were talking down on Jackson State because they did not have a Power 4, Power 5 school on their schedule. First and foremost, I'm gonna say this to Jackson State Tiger fan base. I like this schedule.
Me too. You support your HBCU. You got 3 HBCUs right off the jump. In fact, I don't think they play straight HBCUs all year. That's what I like. And Tennessee State is not even in the HBCU conference, but yet they're still playing at HBCU. Michael, I know you don't like it when you say, "Oh yeah, it's a money game." No, what I want to see is our players playing to at a fair on a competitive level, but not getting beat badly to where it looks like they're a horrible program. And Jackson State can actually put up a fight with a lot of these programs. A lot of them. They may not win them because they almost beat it was a G5 they played last year. They almost beat them. I think it was
Southern Miss. Yeah,
it was Southern Miss. They almost beat them. So, yes, a lot of people saying, "Oh, where's your Power 4, Power 5 school?" Like, Grambling got TCU on their schedule. I do not like that game whatsoever. And it, because when, teams like that just don't have, like the best track record. And, I would say this, it shows how good you can compete on a higher level, but at the same time, you don't want to see your players getting beat down badly. That's why I would say it's a love-hate relationship with these games. But what Jackson State did with their schedule, and on top of that, they ensured that the fans got their night games that they wanted, because these games were initially during the day. And one thing I said this, Jackson State, they listened to their fans, they listened to the alumni, and they said, okay, let's move these games back to the evening. That's one thing I like about the schedule as well.
And there's, first and foremost, let me also say this: you do not have to play a money game to basically describe or try to show off your dominance. And there's, I know I preached in the past that I don't like games, money games like that. I don't like money games because one, I understand, you need the money and stuff like that, but no coach in their right mind wants to see their players get embarrassed and just dominated, to where they can't even compete. But at the same time, it's teams like Jackson State. I'm glad that they even did this approach because you do not have to prove nothing to no one. You don't have to prove anything. You don't need, first of all, you don't need all the money in the world. You don't have to play a Power Five, Power Four, or whatever school every single year. There's nothing wrong with going all HBCUs in just one year, and that's what Jackson State did. And I approve this. I approve this schedule, regardless of what people say, because Jackson State has already proved that they have the dominance. They don't have to play. This is a break for them. But
They
at
were
the
they were
same
they were ranked pro regional last year. And if anything, it gives teams like Edward Waters and Tuskegee a chance to prove themselves to a bigger HBCU.
exactly. But see, here's the thing, dudes. Regardless of them not playing any Power Four, Power Five school, this is still a competitive schedule. It is still a competitive schedule because there are a lot of good HBCU teams on here, and there are some mid level HBCU teams. Regardless, there is still competition on this roster. I mean, not yeah,
I wouldn't, me personally, I would not sleep on the schedule. A couple years ago when Graham played Tuskegee actually put up a good fight against Grambling.
yep,
Um, Tennessee State, they can put up a good fight on a neutral field. And this is not even in Jackson. This is on a neutral site in, I believe, in Nashville. But at the same time, I'm looking at their schedule right now. The Southern game always is always this going to be one for the circle on the calendar, because you coming into Southern's coming to Jackson, new coaching regime, a new identity, basically under Marshall Falk, and a lot that he's brought in. We could possibly see the whole Dion effect under Jackson. I mean, under Southern, with one of their old coaches, former coaches, Alabama A&M, they got their own thing going over there. They're still like Michael, they're one of the mid-tier programs, but I wouldn't count it out. They got a lot of stuff buzzing around there with their eighth year quarterback. They got a
right.
lot buzzing around with their eighth year quarterback, and a lot of people gonna have their opinions on that. Grambling, I tell people this all the time: do not sleep on Grambling. Don't sleep on Grambling. At the same time, don't sleep on Jackson State. This rivalry is always, look, one year this team will beat you, and then Grambling's had the edge the last 2 years of beating them. But we always say this: you cannot sleep on Jackson State because the game is close. The game is always going to be close. And with Grambling or Jackson State, the game is always going to be close. You can't sleep on them.
The third, sometimes a lot of people, there's a saying that third time's a charm. But can I say something? Don't
This,
expect it. Don't expect it to be a third time a charm for Grambling
this
because
oh, this at the hole. We finna pack that game out. This is at the hole.
it's gonna be at the hole, but at the same time, dudes, Jackson State, because I believe that this is a mark on their calendar for this year, and this is exactly why they put Grambling back on their schedule because of the fact, dudes, that like you just said, even though this is a rivalry game, but this is a very personal game. And then not only that, dudes, if I want to jump to Southern, they're already going back and forth. I was watching a video about what this guy was talking about the offensive line, and there were a lot of people. There were a lot of Jackson State fans in the comments talking about Jackson State up by 40 and Jackson State gonna dominate y'all, and it's just going back and forth.
The
So
rivalry, the rivalry between Jackson and Southern will never die. That will never die. And the craziest part, Michael, I think if you watch a video from when Jackson State, it was their 2024 season, and they opened their home season against Southern at the Vet. If you would have seen the way that crowd was rocking, that it looked like a whole NFL game, like how packed it was.
yes,
And
band was into it and everything. Crowd of was into it. Dude, you gotta love games like this. This is why I tell people all the time, man. You got to join these HBCU games, man, because I'm telling you, it's games like Jackson State and Southern. It's games like Grambling and Jackson State. It's games like Florida A&M and Jackson State. Dudes, I can go down and list it. Even Alabama State. Dudes, it's games like these that you gotta love, especially for HBCUs. But for the people that don't know nothing about HBCUs, the the SWAC in general is literally just as an elite conference, just like the SEC, Big Ten, Pac-12, whatever ACC. Look, the SWAC, the MEAC, all these other conferences, the CIAA conference, I can go down the list here. HBCU conferences are just as elite as they want to be. And and dudes, I'm gonna be real with you right now, dudes. Like I said before, Jackson State don't have to prove nothing to nobody, and I'm glad that they didn't even go the FBS or Power Five or the G4 school route because, like I said, regardless of them not even playing those schools, there is still talent, there is still competition that has yet to be played on this rock on this schedule, dudes.
I think
And
this
like
is
you
a
said,
very
we can't
difficult
sleep
schedule.
on this. It is. It is. But dudes, I'm gonna ask you this question though. What do you see their record going before I give you what their record could possibly be? Because like I said, even though they're not playing any Power Five schools teams, this is still a competitive schedule to have. And you see it on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. This is still a competitive schedule. And I know Jackson State fans are like, oh man, we're gonna win it all. Listen to me. I understand that y'all are dominant, and I understand y'all are in y'all dominant phase, and y'all are riding with TC Taylor. We are too. We rocking with y'all Tigers. But like I said, I gotta be real here. There's still competitive. There's still competitiveness. There's still competition. There's still some iffy games that could be really test worthy for y'all. Not saying that y'all are not tested. Not saying that y'all are not battle tested regardless of these HBCUs that y'all are playing, but I just can't sleep on this schedule, and I refuse to.
Me,
I'm
me.
just I'm just being real. You know, I don't mean to offend anybody. I don't mean to offend Jackson State or TC Taylor, but I gotta be honest with y'all. There's still competition right here. There's a lot of competition here, and but dudes, yeah, what is your opinion
If,
about just how this season could go?
if I had to give a record, and because this is, yeah, I'm glad that you asked because my computer is actually about to die. If I had to give a record, I would say I'm floating between the two. Do I think they're gonna go undefeated? No. I could see them going 9-2 or 8-3. And I'm gonna say this because I wouldn't
Uh-huh,
count out the games I wouldn't personally count out are Southern,
uh-huh,
Grambling, FAMU, not FAMU or Bethune-Cookman because those are always trap games or ASU, and then you finish off the season against your rival in Alcorn. So I think I'm gonna say this: the games that if they were to go 9-2,
uh-huh.
hypothetically, I'm just gonna say they lose on a Graham because I think it's just at the hole and Graham. If I feel like Graham just knows how to beat Jackson State, even though I say you can't sleep on them, Graham. I feel like right now Graham will find a way to beat them. Then I'm gonna say I want to say ASU for Jackson State because let me say this: ASU went and beat Jackson State last year in their own home field. Then you got to think about this: ASU done retooled their roster while bringing back their major star players. Your HBCU Player of the Year, Andrew Body, came back, and on top of that, his backup, who was in while Body was out, stepped up and played amazing. Then you got a freshman in Fry who's coming in there as a third string. I'm gonna say this: you cannot sleep on Alabama State. The teams, me personally, I just want to sleep on our Southern Alabama State, Grambling. It
Florida A&M.
I'm gonna say this: 9-2 or 8-3, but don't sleep on any of these teams after Tuskegee because any of these teams can catch you slipping. Any of them.
Yep,
That's why it's so hard to make a prediction so early.
it is.
But any of these teams can catch you slipping. The only two games that I am most confident that they're going to win are Mississippi Valley because they're playing in Jackson, and on top of that, and then Alabama A&M. But the other games, I just wouldn't even sleep on it. Grambling, you got your thing with them. Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman, they can beat you. They can catch you slipping. Bethune-Cookman could have did it last year against Jackson State. Had a few things going their way. ASU, this time they're at home. They're not in Jackson. Then you play the Soul Bowl against your rival in Alcorn. who Alcorn has beaten you before. So I just wouldn't sleep on it. But Michael, what are your record predictions before we close this out?
Yeah, dude. I'm gonna give you three right here. Dude, I don't see Jackson State losing no more than 2 games. No more than 2 games. First record prediction I can give you, they're playing what, 12 games, 11 games this year? Yeah,
Uh,
if I counted correctly. That's 11, right? 11.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Dude, Jackson State could go 11-0. Like I said, I know that's a stretch, but just hold on. They can go 9-2, right? Or they can go 10-1. Okay? But let me give you a breakdown on why. Okay? Let me give you some background history right quick. While Jackson State lost significant talent, the prediction remains high due to Coach Taylor's aggressive recruiting and the lack of money gained against FBS powerhouse. One, opportunistic. Oh, I'm sorry, optimistic outlook. Reigning SWAC co-freshman of the year, Jared Lockhart, is expected to be the mature, the permanent starter at quarterback. If he remains consistent and the defense, led by Tennessee State transfer Micah Gay, just quickly, dude, Jack State can end up going 10-1. Okay. Number two, realistic outlook. The roster turnover is massive. 40 newcomers, dudes. Okay. Let's also be real about that. They have 40 newcomers. Dude's early road tests at Tennessee State and neutral site battles against a tough Florida A&M could lead to a few stumbles. A 9-2 record would likely keep them at the top of the SWAC East. Number three, key challenges. The rushing attack is a concern after losing leading rusher Ahmad Miller to the portal. The Tigers will rely heavily on redshirt freshman Nate Blunt IV, who impressed during the spring game. So, those are my three records. They can go 11-0, 10-1, or 9-2. Now, if you were to ask me what games do you see them losing to or winning, I can see them winning the first 2 games, right? Or maybe the first three. Jackson State could go 3-0 or 2-1 to start off. Then you jump into SWAC, then you jump to the SWAC conference, and you got Southern. Deuce, I think Jackson State has enough firepower to beat Southern. I believe, especially playing at their own stadium. Okay. Then you jump down, like you said, Alabama A&M. They got all their situations, especially with the quarterback. For this 8th year situation. But there's still competition there. But I think Jackson State has enough firepower to beat Alabama A&M. Then you go to Grambling, right? You go to the hole. Even though Grambling has beaten Jackson State twice, I don't think it's going to be entirely that easy coming to the hole. I think Jackson State is going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. This game is going to be very personal to them because it's a tough pill to swallow when you lose against your rival twice in back-to-back years. So I would expect that game to be more personal for Jackson State than it is for Grambling. But I won't sleep on that game either. Then you got Florida A&M, right? Homecoming. First of all, I really don't know why Florida A&M did that anyway, but I can understand, you want to have competition at your homecoming. I get that. But, Florida A&M, the way I see it, they can win that game or they can lose it. Those are 2 losses right there that I can see Jackson State possibly having. Who knows? Grambling might end up beating them again. Who knows? Southern might end up pulling out an upset. Those could be your two. It's really down between Southern, Grambling State, Florida A&M to start off. But let's say Jackson State loses one out of those 2 games, right? Then you go down, then you got Alabama State. Like you said, do some road trip over there in Montgomery. And you got Andrew Body coming back and everything like that in particular. But my question here is, regardless of Alabama State playing at home, will they be able to protect their home venue? or will Jackson State take over? And I'm giving you three options here, dudes, because of the fact, like I said, they can go 11-0, 10-1, or they can go 9-2. So
This is a
it's
good Jackson
it's
team.
just,
It's a very good
yeah,
Jackson team. So you're just
it's a
like
very
it's hard to really like circle in on one record until you finally get a sample size of like their first few games. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I like that they're playing these HBCUs first because if anything, it gives Tuskegee and Edward Waters a chance to give them, prove themselves against a bigger HBCU.
yeah.
And I'm gonna say this really quick, cause yeah, my computer's at 4. If anybody needs the most respect, it's HBCUs, but the smaller HBCUs who get overshadowed by the bigger HBCUs. So the fact that Jackson State went out and scheduled 2 of these primetime games against Tuskegee and Edward Waters, that's going to
Uh-huh.
that's going to get some support and some promotion for these HBCUs. And the one thing I'm gonna say this that HBCU Central will do next season, I feel like we didn't cover enough our smaller HBCUs during football season. It was straight purely SWAC and MEAC. This season, I want to go from the SEAC to the CIA, the SWAC to the MEAC to promote all the conferences because that's good football. It's really good football.
Yes, it's really good football. And Deuce, to close all this out, I'm just give out closing remarks right quick. First and foremost, Deuce, I need to address the nation right quick because I feel like this has kind of been on my spirit all day long, um, and I just feel like this needs to be addressed to not only our HBCU Central fan base, but to also inside the locker room people. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake. Matter of fact, let me make this clear to you. What me and Deuce, what we do on here at HBCU Central, we do not do this to please any of you. And I say it respectfully. I say it respectfully. What we do on here is not to impress any anyone. Matter of fact, like I just said, what we do on here is just God's will that He presented to us in our hearts. That's why we started this whole thing, because God presented it to us. So if God is proud on our behalf, if you have a negative comment about me, you also have a negative comment about Deuce. And if you have a negative comment about Deuce, you have a negative comment about me. And when you have a negative comment about both of us, you have a negative comment on inside the locker room. Because like I said, like me and Deuce have stated so many times, all this HBCU content goes to our main page. Our main page and our main YouTube channel, and that's inside the locker room. So, like I said, make no mistake. I'm not doing this to impress anybody. What I do is because I have a passion of doing it. I didn't decide to do all this to get all media national attention. I don't care anything about that. Dudes, there have been people, there was a guy from LA podcast or whatever he called it. He literally insulted our research on the Kentucky State situation. And let me also say this, ladies and gentlemen, our research, we never said our research is going to be accurate. I never said that my breakdown or me breaking down certain things was ever going to be accurate. I never said that. But what I'm constantly not going to tolerate is the negative comments and insults from the outside world when you clearly don't know nothing about us. You don't know nothing about what we do. You don't even follow us. And for the people that do follow us, if you don't like what we do, you can unfollow. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt my feelings either way. You cannot subscribe to us. It doesn't matter to me. Even if you have not subscribed already. If you haven't, no hard feelings. I have nothing against you. But insulting what we do is not okay. And if you're going to insult what we do, that's fine. But you're not going to stop doing what we do here. You're not going to stop me from doing what I'm doing. And you're not going to compare me to Stephen A. You're not going to compare me to Kendrick Perkins, because those guys right there, they don't even know what the word they're talking about to this day. But I'm going to tell you something right now. I never said for a fact that I know what I'm talking about, but I know what I be saying. I speak with knowledge. I speak with understanding. That's why I break down. I'm a realist. That's what I do. I break stuff down. I break it to the positive atmosphere liability. You will never see me talk down on an HBCU player or an HBCU university. You will never see me do that. But the insults, Deuce, that we have constantly gotten, it hasn't been a lot, but the Arizona State situation, I kind of had to distance myself from that because you're not going to sit here and insult what we do on here. And you haven't even supported us, you ain't even followed us, but at the same time, you constantly sit here and talk about, let's do more research, people. First of all, I never said that my research was accurate. I never said that. But it's crazy enough that a person that don't even know nothing about Kentucky State, but want to go over here and sit and talk about like he knows the situation, what's going on. When you clearly, first of all, he literally stated himself, no article or bill or anything like that doesn't matter. It does matter because because there are some articles that actually back up on what's going on. And that's the difference between the sports media dudes. The sports world is so dead because we got people that want to constantly sit here and just say whatever they think because they're on camera. But what I do on here, and what me and Deuce, Ben and Adam, what we do on here, we don't do this for popularity. We do this because we have a passion for it. And we speak with passion. We speak with knowledge. We don't just speak just to be on camera. I don't care about this camera. I really don't.
And I'm gonna say this real quick. I'm gonna say this really quick. Anything that we speak on here, is strictly our opinion. It's strictly our opinion. And if you're not gonna come on the show and speak your own opinion, and you don't follow us, I think you shouldn't be able to say anything negative to us. Me personally, I don't even read the comments unless if it's something that I already know that's crap and I don't feel like reading it, it's cool. Look, I'm gonna say this with that whole Kentucky State, thingy. Look, however you view it, that's how you view it. How we view it is how we view it.
Yes.
But I'm gonna tell you this. I know for sure that we for sure do our research. We don't just come on here and talk about nothing for nothing.
Yes.
I'm telling you, before I make sure I go every time. And if you want to say my source is wrong, bro, you can say HBCU Sports is wrong because that's where I get most of my research from. HBCU Game Day, HBCU Sports. So if you want to say that, you can say that they don't know where their credit or their work cited is coming from. But I'm gonna say this also. Me and Michael, we say we're realists because we speak truly from the heart. And if you don't like how it comes off, feel free to not watch. The goal is to promote HBCUs and get our content out everywhere so everybody can help support the message and share the message. But if you're gonna be somebody that's like a bump in the road, just turn off the phone or just swipe somewhere else. But don't stop what we're doing. Don't stop the progress that we're trying to make, to prove your point. Because I promise you, me personally, I don't care what point you're trying to make because it's gonna go out one ear and through the other.
Exactly. And dude, the saddest part about it is it being your own people. It be your own people that talk down on you the most. It be your own people who have more followers than you do, and they want to sit here and constantly talk down on what you say and your research and what you say. First of all, like dude just stated, I don't care about y'all opinion. I don't care about none of that. Because like I said, I never said I was a big, sports, person. Like I said, there are a lot of things I don't know a lot about, but I do my research on it.
We're gonna try to do the research. And if we weren't even 100% correct on it, still don't come and act like we didn't know what we was talking about because for sure we knew. I'm telling you, we had a clear concept of what we was talking about.
Yes. And that's the thing. And Deuce, like I said, I apologize, but I had to address the nation right quick. And Deuce, I really hope that when we finish all this, that you actually make this a clip. And I'm gonna pinpoint this clip because what people need to understand is that here on HBCU Central, we are not here to please you. We're not here to please none of you. We're here to support every single HBCU possible. If whether you like what we do or you don't. But if you don't like what we do, stay over there. Because ain't nobody got time to deal with all that negative energy that you got because, you feel like you got more followers than we do, and you might have more followers. But here's the thing. We're growing slowly than what you are. And people are starting to see a lot of athletes and coaches are now starting to see just how professional and passionate we are. Dudes, we're almost at 300 followers right now.
All in a month half of work.
Yes, a month half of work. So don't sit here and act like we don't know what we're talking about. We might be young, but we're not stupid. So don't try to make it seem like, because you've been on doing this for a while and you have an age gap over us, that make you think you're better than us. No, sir. No, ma'am.
I'm gonna throw this out there too. Don't even think that I'm gonna try to engage with you in the comments because I try to act from a professional level. So when you try to sit there and say do your research, I'm not going to care because look,
Yeah,
if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me professionally. If you want to talk
yeah,
to us, you can talk to us professionally in our DMs, and we can conversate on how we can fix, said content so we can make sure we're promoting it the right way. And so we can get a clear understanding of how you view the topic and how we view the topic. But one thing I'm gonna say is don't come into our comments talking like about our work. That's one. If you want to do that, come into our DM us because what we're trying to. I'm just telling you, we're not going to engage in any of that because at the end of the day, we're trying to grow our stuff, and it shouldn't be the fact that two young adults are more professional than a grown adult. So that's
exactly.
how I see it. I'm not even going to talk too much about it because like I said, I truly don't even care about those comments because it's not going to stop me from what I'm doing. It just shows that I'm doing something right. If people got to come in nitpick and say something, that means my message is getting across, and that means people are watching my reels, and that's what I really care about. I just care about the engagement, make sure my message is getting across. And if you can respond to myself, that means I know. That means I know Kentucky State was able to see my video.
Yes, yes. Like I said, dude, this is more about making sure that our message is getting across, making sure that people are literally seeing what we're doing, and we're getting views at a higher level. So, dude, make no mistake, I'm gonna communicate with you. I'm gonna communicate with you because, like I said, I'm not gonna be that person that's gonna be negative. I'm gonna speak to you professionally. But if you're gonna constantly sit here and just have every single comment being insulting, then I'm gonna back away from it because, like I said, I don't have all that energy. I don't have the energy for that. You want to be negative, you need to take your negative self somewhere else. Because, like I said, here on HBCU Central, me personally, I don't care about that. Like Deuce just said it. As long as our content is being spread across every single HBCU platform, I don't care about your opinion. I respect your opinion because you're a human being. You have a right to your opinion. I respect you for that. But there's a difference between having a comment and just being negative and being insulting. You want to be insulted? You can be insulted, but I'm not going to engage in it because I don't have time for it. I'm a 25-year-old young man. What do I look like arguing with a 30 plus, 40 plus, or 20 plus year old person? I'm not going to waste my time for that, dude.
It's
Because
pointless.
like I said, as long as God is pleased with what I'm doing, and first and foremost, before anybody sit here and try to test God, first try to see and say, what made you think God ain't pleased? If God wasn't pleased, none of this would still be going. None of this would still be going. You're not going to sit here and try to make it seem like, oh, God is not pleased because you're not pleased. No, that's not how this works. You're not going to see and play God that way. If God is pleased with what we're doing, we will not still be doing it. We will not still be getting followed. We will still not be getting views, even though I don't care about none of that. But your insults, I say this clearly and I say this respectfully, your insults does not matter to me. I don't care. You can say what you want about me. You can hate on me. First of all, I don't even know why you would hate on us because if anyone, there are a lot of people who've been pleased with what we're doing, but that's okay. But like I said, I don't know why they hating on this Deuce. They hate us so weak, but Deuce, I guess that comes with their territory. But that's okay. But like I said, Deuce, what we do on here, as long as God is pleased and He's proud of the way we do, your opinions, especially if it's negative, does not matter to me because I'm proud of what I do, and I'm gonna continue to be proud and passionate about what I do till the day I die or till the day I retire for doing all this. And I pray to God that blesses me, Deuce, being in Adam, especially HBCU Central, at a higher level. But Deuce, that's all I got to say. Like I said, I do apologize. We were supposed to end 8 minutes ago, but I just had to address the nation right quick because
I'm
this needs to
gonna
be
say this 'cause that needs to be addressed because I'm gonna say this as we continue to grow, that means our message is going to continue to spread to more audiences. And I'm gonna say this, me personally, I'm gonna say it right here and right now. I do not care for your opinion. If you have a certain opinion about it, you can come talk to me in my DMs about it. But I would not engage in talks like that in my comment section. And in fact, I just leave it there so people can just see the stupidity of stuff
yes,
like that. I literally
yes,
just leave it there. But
yes.
to close this out, to close this episode, I hope that y'all all enjoyed this episode. We got a lot of content coming out. Also, for like in a couple weeks, just be prepared that Michael will be out of town and I'll be wrapping some things up with work. So we will be a little bit slow on that content that week, but we will make sure to get more news content out and news content and stuff like that, so y'all can continue to interact and like our content, so we can keep getting the HBCU content out. And if you feel like there's anything that y'all want me to post, just send it to me. and I post it. You know, Michael sends me news every day, and I post it. It can be from any HBCU, big or small. What I'm about to start doing actually is posting some band content on there too. You know, because I feel like that can bring in a whole other audience from just sports. And look, we may not talk about like the education and the sports stuff on the band, like on the podcast, but I make sure on our platform and our Instagram that I'm posting that at like the updates of what's going on with the school. So if y'all feel like anything y'all want me to talk about, just send it to me and we'll keep getting content out. But like I'm gonna say this, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe on all of our content. We're like at 338 subscribers on YouTube, two away from four no, we're at 348. Yeah, so two away from 350. So just help us get there. And then we're at three. I mean, we're at 288, I believe, on our Instagram page as well. So we're 12 followers away from getting to 300. So if you can help us get there by supporting our content, sharing with it, anything will help. Michael, do you have anything else?
No, basically what I just addressed not too long ago is basically my closing remark. But I will say this, like this just said, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and please also share. Not only our HBCU Central page, but our platform, like the Sports Talk with Deuce, as you see down at the bottom of your screen, but also inside the locker room. Make sure that you're please sharing your message to all your friends, family, coworkers, or whoever in the sports world, or any of that in particular. 'Cause like I said, we're trying to get every single HBCU message across. Just like today with Mr. Larry Howell over there in FSU. First of all, shout out to him
And
for coming on
shout out
and
to their
representing.
program as well.
So this that's really all I got to say. Like I said, I do apologize. We were supposed to be off like 11 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago, but like I said, I had to address the nation because that needs to be said. Like I said, I meant no harm. If I hurt anyone's feelings, y'all know I do not. I don't like hurting people's feelings. I'm just a realist. But a lot of people, there are some people that just hate what you do, and they try everything they power to tear you down. And I just had to come on here and just basically say that we don't care about your opinion, especially if it's negative, because as long if God is pleased, then that's all the encouragement that we need. But that's my closing remarks. We appreciate y'all for joining the show. If you stayed that long, appreciate you.
Yeah,
Like I said, I did not mean to have us on this long, but it's been in my spirit this entire week, and it just needs to be addressed. But dudes, that's really about all I got to say.
agree. So like Michael said, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And thank y'all for watching. And we will be back sometime the next couple of days. Thank y'all for watching.